We spent 4 days section hiking the very northernmost portion of the Oregon Coast Trail. We made some mistakes.
Yes, we did.
Let's go over those and maybe you can learn from our mistakes. To give you some background, we have been backpacking, but we normally go out on shorter trips.
Yes.
With a weekend, overnighters, stuff like that. This one was different.
It's the longest one to date so far, and the farthest as well.
So we ended up hiking for 4 days. It was 3 nights, 4 days, but we covered 37 miles, which normally we do 2, 5, 9 max.
Maybe 10.
Yeah, but we normally go on shorter trips and actually just enjoy the camping part. This was more of a little mini through hike for us. I mean, it was long.
Yes, it was long. We're going to break it down into 2 different sections. The gear issues we had and the situational issues we had. I think our biggest mistake was our fuel issue.
So we brought one of these, and only one, but guess what? We brought a half full one. Not even half full, actually. It was probably only a third full.
But actually, when we were packing, I wanted to bring 2, and I like to overpack, I think. But we were assured that this was going to be enough. It was not.
One of the reasons why I didn't want to bring a full one is on the Oregon Coast Trail, you're kind of hiking from town to town. And there's not a huge amount of camping. There is some, but so for us, we were camping for 2 out of the 3 nights.
Yes.
So we did have a resupply in town, and I figure we'll just get food there, which we did.
We did do that. But then we ran out when we needed to.
But literally, we pulled into camp at the day 3 night, fired up the stove, it starts going, and then it just kind of petered out and stopped. So we got to try cold soaking.
Which worked out really actually pretty good.
Yeah, it actually did work out really good.
So the fix for next time, we are going to bring a brand new fuel canister with us.
Yeah, knowing you're going out on a longer trip, just buy the new can. Simple fix.
Yes. Another issue was we did not have a backup fuel source, as in a lighter. We actually take the little mini Bic lighters, and I had actually put it in a cup. Greg didn't realize that, and so he was searching for it, thinking that we had lost it, and which we did not. But yeah, we need to have a backup source of fuel.
Yeah, didn't actually matter because we ran out of fuel, but having fire actually is very helpful because on day 3 we actually built a fire and we needed this. 2 ways of fixing this. 1, maybe have 2. I think what we're gonna do is grab another one of these and throw it in our first aid kit. Then we just kind of always have a backup in there. I think number 2 though for us is putting this in a location that's standard.
Yes.
Right now we're sticking it in with our kit. The problem is we've got multiple kits. And so sometimes before we go on a trip, we're moving stuff around and stuff sometimes doesn't get put in the same spot. So finding a perfect spot for this, or at least not perfect, but at least consistent, I think that's key. The next fail, well, not really a fail, but the mistake was, I think we didn't do enough electrolytes in our water. On day 2, we had a 15-mile day, which is super long for us. A good 9 miles of that was on the beach. And it wasn't super hot. It was in the 60s, but it was just
beautiful.
sun.
Yeah, it was
just
gorgeous.
Pure sun. The MVP of the day were the sun hoodies.
Yes.
If you haven't checked out a sun hoodie yet, we're going to be doing a review for that in the future. But check those out. Those are super awesome. I normally use Scratch when I am out trail running, and it works really well. I really like the flavor. Problem with that is getting them into a container that you can take. They make kind of single serve, but they're like 3 times the price of this. What we'd like to actually find is like a solid, like the tablet kind.
And just drop it right into the water bottle.
I know Noon makes some. Maybe you guys can recommend some.
But luckily, from after that super long walk on the beach, we did stop at a convenience store and get some Gatorade to
we stayed at a hostel at the end of that trip.
Yeah.
And there was a place right next to it.
Of course, another advantage to having electrolytes will be the flavor adding to some of the water that we had along the way was not the best tasting. I mean, we needed it, so obviously we were going to drink it, but that would definitely help with the taste of the different waters. The next thing is bringing too much clothing. I tend to overpack because I want something in case of any situation. But this time I actually did okay, and Greg overpacked.
Yeah, we both overpacked. Kelly's like the king of packing your fears. Like any fear she has, it's just like it's in her backpack.
You just never know.
Yeah, I listened to her long enough where I packed an extra pair of pants because I wanted some zip offs
Yeah.
Never used them, never touched them.
I only actually brought an extra long shirt, my base layer, but I didn't actually need because I ended up using it, my sun hoodie, and I actually slept in that as well.
And for me, I brought my long sleeve base layers that I normally sleep in. It was in the 50s and at night and in the 60s during the day. I knew I sleep really hot. And I knew I wasn't going to use those at night, but I still brought them. Not only that, but I brought in a lightweight sleep shirt, if that tells you what I shouldn't have done. Next time, trust the weather, at least to a point. The solution to packing your fears, I think, is just a learning process and what we need to really bring. And I think we're slowly getting there. I think this trip was such a longer trip for us, and we were doing bigger miles that we weren't used to. And that extra weight really made a big difference. And so I think it burned into our brains that we don't want to carry that extra stuff. Our next trip will actually be really good. We'll pare it down to
Even more. Because at Ozette Triangle, I actually took even more stuff. So I'm slowly getting...
starting the process.
I'm getting slower. I'm getting better and better each time.
Yeah.
Those were our gear mistakes. Now let's tell you about our situational fails.
This first one kind of revolves around transportation. And to give you a little insight on the Oregon Coast Trail, it's very loose in the sense of it being a trail. It's kind of a route. We only saw a handful of markers the entire trip. There's no real trail besides there's a couple trails that you go through, but it's kind of a connection of different areas. We took the bus, which actually is provided by Amtrak, from Portland out to Warrenton, which is as close as we could get to the northern terminus. I just kind of assumed that when we got there that we could Uber to the
starting point.
The starting point, because it was only 6 or 7 miles to that starting point. So
And we did check before we left home. And
well, guess what? There was none. There's just 0 Ubers.
Yes.
So long story short, at least know what your options are, and if you're going on a trail that has limited options, maybe nail down at least one somewhat good idea.
Yeah.
What we ended up doing, we actually just walked.
Yeah, we just walked the whole way to the campground.
It was about 5 miles to where we were camping for the first night. Our second issue was maybe not being as prepared for the long sections. This portion of the hike, day 2, ended up being 15 miles. That's a long ways. And
long ways, yes.
I kind of justified it when I was mapping it all out. I kind of justified it as, well, it's flat.
Yeah.
And which it was.
On sand, though.
Yeah, but you're still carrying 20 plus pounds a person.
Yes. There wasn't a way for us to break that day up into a shorter section, so we had to do the whole mileage.
There's a lot of rules about where you can and can't camp on the beach, and that stretch has a big military base through a section of it, and you can't camp next to a town, and so there was really no place to stop. But this next section goes to kind of like hike your own hike, and we had some other party with us, and everybody was a little grumpy and a little bit tired around mile 9. That section of the beach you can actually drive on, and there was a decent amount of traffic following us, and I'm like, we're gonna try hitchhiking, and so I just stuck my thumb out, and like I think it was the second truck that passed. I had my thumb out, I was looking at him, and he's looking at me. We made eye contact, and I can see that he was just like, absolutely not. So I actually went like this, and I just kept contact, and he stopped, and then he's like, get in.
Super nice guy. Let us throw our packs in the back, and then drove us 3.5 miles down to where the cars were not allowed to go any farther. Yes.
That was super helpful. It was kind of a morale booster to get a little leapfrog down the beach. We still had another 3 miles after that, but that actually was really nice.
It helped big time. And finally, not having a plan for emergencies, because we did have a crash.
We had 2 crashes, but Kelly had the big one.
We were actually climbing up part of the section between Seaside and the hiker-biker camp, which actually that trail is really hard to find, but we found it.
It's pretty technical.
Yeah, lots of down trees, and we were climbing over one of the trees. I got over, got my footing down, and as I was making my final step, my one foot actually caught on a root.
Somehow she turned backwards and her pack actually landed on me.
Well, it's because I got my foot stuck here, and as I was stepping down, I fell, and it went like that and hit my head. And but my watch did notice that I had fallen, and it says trying to locate a phone, and it would have sent out an SOS. My butt hurts a little bit, head hurts a little bit.
It was immediately kicked into my brain like, this could be bad. What do I actually do? What do we do in this situation?
And of course, he wanted me to stay put, feel around my head, make sure there is no puncture wounds.
I think going forward, if somebody has an accident, take a second to pause and actually identify the situation and potential injuries.
Yes.
Because I immediately wanted to grab her backpack and hoist her up so see if she was okay. If she was injured, you don't really want to kind of yard somebody up by their backpack.
Yeah.
And so taking a second and be like, okay, are you actually injured? And the thing is like when people fall or hurt themselves, like, I'm fine.
Yeah.
And that was actually the first thing she says. But I'm like, take a second to really identify, do you have injuries? You know, is there a hole in your head? Do we need to really freak out right now?
And of course, we did have our Garmin, so if it was a serious thing, we could have actually done the SOS thing.
And that kind of leads to a little bit of a gear fail. We have a very small first aid kit. If there was a significant bleed event, I don't think there's a big enough gauze in there. We do carry some buffs with us, and I think those would be really helpful. But I think maybe we'll put at least a bigger pad or bigger gauze section there, just in case there's somebody gets impaled on one of the branches.
Yeah, because I do tend to have some crashing events on most of our trips. So.
I hope you guys can learn from some of our mistakes we've made. I think it takes some time just being out on the trail and actually making the mistakes to know that, oh, I don't want to do that, or I shouldn't be doing that, or do this instead.
And if you have any tips for us for our next trips, please let us know.
Go watch this video next. You can find us at exploretrekadventure.com.
We'll see you next time.